Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we are going to be ranking the Regeneration stories from worst to best. Or I guess it's probably more accurate to say my least favorite to favorite. Now, I will be ranking by the whole story, not just the Regeneration. I've already done a list ranking the Regenerations. So this will be ranking the story itself, the actual Regeneration story. And we have 13 on this list. Lord, I hope I didn't forget one. I'm sure somebody will let me know. So starting at the bottom, we are going to start with Time and the Ronnie. Now, I don't hate Time and the Ronnie. I don't hate any of these. The interesting thing about this list, before I get into that, is none of the Regeneration stories I just hate or I just think are terrible. But most of them I'm not just massively in love with either. Like, there's only the top 3 that I think I would call masterpieces. Most of them fall in the good category. They're good. They're not just mind-blowing. You know, they don't necessarily live up to their doctor, but they're good. But there's only a few of them I'm like, that's amazing. That's fantastic. Most Regeneration stories are essential because they're Regeneration stories, not because they're just amazing, blow-your-mind stories. Because I think a lot of modern Who fans who are doing kind of the cliff notes of classic Who, they do want to see a Doctor's first story and a Doctor's last story. And I think that's a little disappointing. They're kind of missing out sometimes, because sometimes a Regeneration story, while being good, isn't just like the best of classic Doctor Who. There's only a few occasions where I think it is. So moving on to Time and the Ronnie. I give Time and the Ronnie a lot of leeway knowing everything going on behind the scenes, knowing, or at least everything that's been talked about, knowing all of the production problems, how it's originally written for, how it's originally written for Colin, and how Colin didn't want to come back, how it was supposed to be in a forest, how it had to be written on the fly, how Andrew Cartmel didn't have much say in it, how Pip and Jane Baker had to work really fast to get it done, having to film a Regeneration sequence, because this was at a time when there's no way they would have done it without a Regeneration sequence, like they did with the modern series, just starting with Eccleston. They had to have a Regeneration sequence. So having to come up with a way to do that, I'm very forgiving of this story. And it does some neat things. I like the costumes on the aliens on the planet. Kate O'Mara is clearly having the time of her life as the Ronnie in this story. I love watching her in it. Some of the special effects look good, like the little ball that spins around and crashes into walls. That's a neat looking effect, really impressive. The Tetraps look really good. That's actually a really good costume design, except for when they stick their tongue out. Other than that, it's a really good costume design. I liked it. Some of the other effects, like the bees, look kind of bad. The Regeneration, I think the original version of it works for what they had to work with the effect over the face and the fact you should roll it over mid-Regeneration. I think that works, considering the circumstances. The plot of the story is not that great. Some of the other effects don't work that very well. McCoy is clearly finding his way and figuring out what he wants to do with his doctor. Some of it's a little silly, but he's that kind of actor, so it plays kind of to his strengths. I like how he mixes his metaphors. But I am glad that he toned it down when we got to Paradise Towers. So yeah, Time and the Ronnie is not great. It's not a good story. I'll be honest. It's not a good story, but I don't hate it either. It's just kind of a story. It's got some things I like, some things I don't. Number 12 on the list is Planet of the Spiders. This one, I don't ever have the urge to rewatch it. I own it, and I think I've only watched it once or twice since I bought it back when the DVD first came out here in the States. And it's not bad. It has some neat things it does. I really like that the Doctor does get one last kind of hurrah. You know, he gets the plane chase, the hovercraft chase, the car chase. You know, he gets to do all those Jon Pertwee things. He gets to kind of go out with a bang. The story itself is okay. The spiders aren't realized as well as I wish they were. They kind of need some updated effects there. The CSO work when he's in the cave looks kind of rough. The whole thing about a Time Lord being able to project their next incarnation physically is really weird. But it's not bad either. It's just okay. I think the third Doctor deserved better, though. Since the third Doctor's era is so good and so many of his stories are so good, I feel like this is one of those where it just doesn't quite live up to the Pertwee era. But it's not bad. I need to rewatch it. I just never had the urge to rewatch it, which is the main reason it's placed so low, is it doesn't have a high rewatchability. I probably won't rewatch it until the season 11 box set comes out. Number 11th on the list is the 10th Planet. And a lot of this is due to the missing episode 4, because the first 2 episodes of the 10th Planet are great. I really like them. Everything is going really well. But with the third episode, with William Hartnell having been sick at the time, and it's very obvious he's not there, especially when you watch the 10th Planet as an adult for the first time, or the first time you see it, you're an adult, it's very obvious Hartnell wasn't there, and that they were using a double, and that takes away from the episode. I mean, again, it's not their fault. You have to work with what they have, much like Time and the Ronnie. But here it just bothers me more, probably because the first 2 episodes are so good. Now, if the 4th episode existed, that would probably make up for it. And while I love Planet 55's animation style, some of the stuff they do with the camera work there looks really weird. And I found it jarring the last time I watched it, going from episodes 1, 2, and 3 to the animated episode 4, and some of the close-ups and what they do with camera work. Very jarring, very bothersome. While I love the animation style itself, that, and I don't know, I like seeing that regeneration, the surviving footage of it. I don't like the animated version of that, which the animated version of still done really well. I don't want to see that. I want to see the actual regeneration. And plus, I just love when a final episode of a story exists. It's one of the reasons I'm so excited about getting Will in Space animated eventually, because I love when I can watch a final episode of something in the actual surviving footage. And it's a shame to me that the one episode that's missing is the final episode. It's a little anticlimactic for me, and that's why it ranks so low. Number 10 on the list is Parting of the Ways. The Bad Wolf 2-parter, I really have issues with how dated it is due to the game show stuff it's mocking, like The Weakest Link and all that. That really dates it. Like, Parting of the Ways is more dated than like Pertwee era stuff a lot of times, because it just shows that it's a mid-2000s program. And while I enjoyed it at the time, it really grates on me now. It has some wonderful scenes in it, like when the Doctor sends Rose back in the hologram, telling her to live a good life, and I love when the hologram just looks dead at her. That's beautiful. I like seeing the kind of relationship stuff grow between 2 of the co-workers on the station. And it's a shame they get killed before they can pursue that. The ending with her becoming the Bad Wolf and realizing that's where all the words came from is great. Eccleston's final scene before he regenerates is great. But I hate the fact that basically everyone on the station dies except the Doctor, Rose, and Jack gets brought back. Everybody dies. He fails to save everyone. We're talking almost a Horror of Fang Rock situation here. And I don't know. I don't get into this one as others on the list. I don't hate it, for sure. I like it. It's a good one. I like all of the stories on this list to one degree or another. I've watched this one a lot back in the 2000s and early 2010s, but I never really feel the urge to go back for it. There's just so many better Eccleston episodes to watch. But Eccleston has some truly great moments in it. Number 9 is Legopolis. This is another one where I think the story is good. I feel like Tom deserved better. The 4th Doctor deserved something like a better story, like something out of the Hinchcliffe era. It's still good, and I love the fact he goes out saving the whole universe, or most of the universe, since some of it was already gone. And although it was kind of a problem he accidentally helped create in the first place. And Tom is good in this episode. Again, the whole bit with the Watcher kind of merging with him is a little weird, but it's fine. I love the actual regeneration. I love the incidental music there. The actual regeneration ranks pretty high on my list. I like meeting Tegan. It's nice to see Tegan get to interact with the 4th Doctor a little bit in this story. I like how Anthony Ainley plays the Master in this story. And I enjoy the updated effects on the box set. Like I said, it's a good story, but just a good story, and I feel like the 4th Doctor deserved an amazing final send-off, and instead only got a good one. Number 8 on the list is Day of the Doctor. I like Day of the Doctor, but I have discovered that anytime I rewatch it, I'm fast-forwarding through parts. I cannot just sit through the whole thing. It's good, and it's on this list because we do have the War Doctor regenerating into the 9th Doctor, and I actually do like that regeneration. So I feel like it counts. It does a lot of neat stuff. I like that it brings the Zygons back. It feels more like a celebration of modern Who than Doctor Who for the 50th anniversary special. You know, I love seeing the Curator in it. I love seeing the Doctor save Gallifrey at the end. That went too quick, though. They really should have done more like some of the fan edits of that have done and showed more of the classic Doctors, I feel. I feel like it was just there just so they could give a nod to it, and that's it. That kind of bothered me. But I don't know. It seems too long, and I'm fast forwarding through a lot of it. Not a lot of it, but there are parts I'm kind of like, eh. I think it's good. Day of the Doctor is good, but I don't think it's necessarily a masterpiece. It's not even my favorite multi-Doctor story. It's not even my second favorite multi-Doctor story. I forget where it fell on the list when I ranked those. Number 7 on the list is Twice Upon a Time. I do like this one better than Day of the Doctor. Because aside from some of the choices they make with portraying the First Doctor, which I don't agree with because they just don't seem like the First Doctor, I think this story does really well. I love the fact that Capaldi's final story isn't that massive bad guy he's fighting. You know, I don't know what to do if it's not an evil plan. I like that. Not everything in modern Doctor Who has to be this big last hurrah, like everybody seems to think it is. So I like the fact it's something simple like this, and him, you know, saving one soldier's life, or I guess maybe 2 soldiers' lives. The way I love how it brings in the Christmas celebration, the Christmas armistice. I love that. I remember one of the comics, The Forgotten, had its own spin on that. That was really good. So I love how it fits that in with actual history. That's a beautiful scene. It has some really good camera work, some great music, some great performances. It's nice to see David Bradley playing the First Doctor, not just playing Wee Martineau, but playing the First Doctor, because I do like how he plays the First Doctor. And some of the choices in it aren't his fault. That's just the way it's written. And seeing how the episode starts out with the 10th Planet footage and transitions into Twice Upon a Time. And the same with the First Doctor's regeneration and the Second Doctor, how it transitions back to the 10th Planet footage. It's just beautiful. It's wonderful. It's a nice little tribute to Classic Who there. I enjoyed it. I really like this one. Plus, this is probably the most awesome I ever see Capaldi's hair. I love his Doctor hair. I wish his hair had been like that his whole run. I like Twice Upon a Time. I think it's a really fun story. I like to rewatch it, and I don't have to fast forward through any of it. Number 6 on the list is Time and the Doctor, Matt Smith's final story. I know some people wish this was a 2-parter, but I like it as a single story. My only complaint isn't its fault. I just wish Matt Smith had done another season, because I would have liked to have seen him stay longer, because I like his Doctor, and I would have liked to have seen him have more time with Clara, because I feel like Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman have really good chemistry together, and I really kind of have liked their little flirtatious attitude that the 11th Doctor and Clara had together. I really enjoyed that, which I usually don't with a Doctor and a companion, so I really liked that here. They had a really nice way they got along. And then the story itself is really good. I like that the Doctor dies of old age, spending hundreds and hundreds, like 900 years, defending this planet. I like the lady that runs the church that the Doctor gets on with really well. I like her as a character. I like how it ties a lot of the strands with the silence and everything together and Trenzlore. I think it wraps it up pretty well. Maybe not perfectly, but pretty well. I love the makeup they use for him as an old man. That's done really well. Jenna Coleman is great in this episode. I like his final speech. I think his final speech is done really, really well. I don't really like the Amelia, the kid Amelia or grown Amelia showing up. I think that's more for fans than for the actual story. I didn't really care much for that. I mean, it's fine, but I didn't care much for it. But his actual speech, when he's talking like it all disappears, doesn't it? Like breath on a mirror. That's really good, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that was done really well. The actual regeneration I don't care for. First off, the big one where he blows up a Dalek ship with it, I was sitting there going, I thought that was a little silly. And then the sneeze regeneration. I'll give the sneeze credit because it's different. Because all the regenerations are kind of alike in the modern series, and I don't like that. So it is different. It gets a couple points for being different. That being said, still didn't like it. Just a quick sneeze from one frame to the next. Didn't really like it overall. Points for being different, but didn't really like it. Next on the list is the TV movie. And this is probably ranked higher than most people would put it. One, I like the TV movie, just itself. It has flaws, it's not perfect, it has issues. But I still enjoy it. Two, the TV movie is very unique. There's no other Doctor Who experience quite like the TV movie. Because classic Doctor Who is not like the TV movie, but modern Doctor Who is not like the TV movie. So it's a wonderful bridge between them. I'm very glad the TV movie exists because it's nice to kind of have that bridge between classic Who and modern Who. And one of the reasons it ranks so high is just because of that uniqueness. There's no other piece of Doctor Who that looks the way the TV movie does, or that moves along the way the TV movie does, because it does have that kind of Americanized feel to it. You can tell it's a collaborative effort. And whether or not that's good or bad is another story, but I love the uniqueness to it. Secondly, McGann is great in this story. I love McGann as the 8th Doctor, just in general, but in this story he is phenomenal. I like Eric Roberts' Master in this story. I think he's the most underrated Master. Is he perfect? No. But there is a lot of nuance to his acting that if you actually watch the story and focus on his acting and what he's doing in some of the scenes, it is very well done. Very well done. I have a whole video talking about that as well. I like Grace. I think Daphne does a good job as Grace. I don't really care for Lee as much. I find him a little bothersome, but he's fine. I love the fact the Master has a companion in this story. That's really neat. And I love how they actually seem to get on pretty well for a good chunk of the story. I love the TARDIS interior. Oh my god. That is the TARDIS I would want to live in. If I had a TARDIS, I would want that TARDIS. That would be, it's not necessarily my favorite TARDIS, but it's the one I would want to live in. That TARDIS looks immaculate. And I think that's the first one that had the column that went all the way to the ceiling, which is something we've seen in Modern Who a lot, so I love that. Again, it's not the most perfect story, but there's a lot of things it does that really endears it to me. Plus, I love Sylvester McCoy in it as well. That is my favorite look for McCoy. I love the outfit he wears briefly in the TV movie. I love his longer hair that he has for it. That is my favorite look for the 7th Doctor, and I think it's a tragedy we didn't get more time with that older version of the 7th Doctor, because I truly love it. And the little bit of time McCoy is on screen, he's phenomenal. He's great. I've literally put in the TV movie and just watched it up to where he dies and stopped watching, because he's so good in it. Number 4 on the list is The End of Time, which, again, I think I like more than a lot of people. First off, I like the extended ending, the kind of Lord of the Rings approach where the 10th Doctor is saying goodbye to everyone, because I feel like his Doctor earned it, because he is the first Doctor of the modern series that I think people had a chance to grow old with, or not grow old with, but to really grow with. You know, the first Doctor that they had years to spend with, to get attached to, because Eccleston was kind of there and boom, he was gone. You barely got attached to him before he was gone. With Tennant, you know, you had about 4 or 5 years with him. You had really attached to him, and with him being so popular, you really attached to him. So when he regenerated, you know, it's a gut punch. So I like the fact that basically the fans, especially the newer fans who are still not used to the Doctor changing the way the Doctor does, that they got this kind of extended goodbye so they could see him a little more, and him being heroic. Plus, Tennant just sells it. His acting is phenomenal. The music right there, with the Vale and the Vale Decim after that, sells it. It's wonderful. The actual story, I like. I love the fact you have Timothy Dalton in it. I love the fact it's the Time Lords, and you kind of see what they had become. John Sims' Master here is all right. I like him better than I did in Series 3, but not as much as I do in World Enough and Time. He's pretty good here. His Master works opposite the 10th Doctor here really well. I think the Skeletor effect on him looks a little cheap, but it's fine. I like the kind of blonde hair he has. And then everything going on with not just him having to deal with the Master, but him having to deal with the Time Lords and having to deal with everything else going on. It truly does feel epic. It works as a two-parter. I love having Wilf back for a final story because I love Bernard Cribbins. He's great in this story. So I enjoy that him and I also enjoy he got to travel in the TARDIS. That's wonderful. This story has a lot of things it does really, really well. And Tennant's final lines of "I don't want to go" I think are beautiful. Very fitting for his Doctor because his Doctor very much enjoyed being that version of the 10th Doctor. The 10th Doctor loved being the 10th Doctor. And then I loved the Regeneration being so over the top because it hadn't become an old hat yet. This is really the first time we saw that. You know, and being as explosive as it was, you really did get this sense of an era ending and another era starting. And I just am there for all of that. I truly love The End of Time. It's a great story. Number 3 on the list, this is where we run into the ones that are masterpieces. I think End of Time is really, really, really good. It's great. I don't know if I'd quite call it a masterpiece. The top 3 I'll call masterpieces, even if number 3 I think is still slightly overrated. That is The Caves of Androzani. I shouldn't have to explain why The Caves of Androzani is great. This truly is a situation where the Doctor arrives somewhere and he should have just turned around and left immediately. Him being there does not help the situation any. His being there doesn't even really change the situation that much. Pretty much how things would have played out anyway. His only main goal, once he's there, is he needs to get the hell out of there. He needs to get him and Perry out of there. He needs to get the cure and get out. Because everyone around him is bad to one degree or another. He has no allies in this story. There's no good side for him to ally himself with. There's nobody here. You have about 3 different factions going on here, and all of them are varying degrees of bad. He needs to just get out. It is wonderfully written. Robert Holmes, as he puts it, as he wanted to, puts the 5th Doctor through hell. It's easily Davison's best performance in the role. I really like him and Perry here together. The character of Jex is really well done. I don't really care for Morgus. While the actor doesn't do a bad job, some of the choices he makes, like looking directly into the camera, I find a little bothersome. Plus the little ponytail thing looks weird. But Jex is a great character. He's written well and he's portrayed really well. This is a really good story. It deserves, I think, most of the accolades it gets. I don't think it's the best Classic Who story ever made, like some people seem to, but it is Davison's best story and one of the best stories to come out of the 80s. It's very, very phenomenal and essential Doctor Who viewing. Number 2 on the list is Night of the Doctor. I think one of the reasons this was ranked so high is with it being as short as it is, being a mini episode, there's no room for filler here. Every part of this story is just edge of your seat. Find out what's going on. You know, there's nothing I need to fast forward through because it's not a full-length episode. It does exactly what it needs to do and uses its time well. You have basically the first half with the Doctor on the ship with Kes. And stop calling for a doctor. I'm a doctor, but probably not the one you're expecting. How shocking is that the first time you see it when you don't know it's coming? Who would have ever thought we would get Paul McGann on the screen again? I will never forget seeing that. My jaw is just like... And then seeing him talking with her. And I love how they have just a few seconds to get a little rapport going before she finds out he's a Time Lord. Back of the ship. Why? Because the front crashes first. Think it through. I love that. It's every day like this, if you're lucky. You get that little bit of companion banter, just briefly. And then she finds out he's a Time Lord. And she's so disgusted and so horrifying, and that she would rather die than go with him. Tells you just what the Time Lords were thought of at the time. At least I'm not a Dalek. Who could tell the difference anymore? Knowing that the Time Lords had become so bad in people's eyes that they were thought of just like the Daleks. And she was so horrified that he was a Time Lord that she was perfectly fine with dying than going with him. That's very telling, and I love that. And then the second half of the scene with him on Khan, I think that's done really well too with the sisterhood. One, the actress playing the main head sister, she's great. She's really good here. And her and McGann going back and forth is phenomenal. Oh, 4 minutes, that's ages. Anyone for chest, bring me knitting. I love that. What if I get bored? I love that. I love that snarkiness in the 8th Doctor there. That whole conversation, and then when he when he does finally drink his final words of "Physician, heal thyself," it's great. It's a great final words. And I love the regeneration. I think I forgot to mention this regeneration when I was doing my ranking video. I had it written down. I skipped it. I had a lot of problems making that video, and I think I forgot to mention it. Ranked 7th, by the way. If you want to know where it ranked on my regenerations chart, this regeneration was 7th. And I like that the Doctor starts the regeneration standing up and he ends it on the ground, because all of the classic Doctors regenerated laying down, all the modern Doctors regenerate standing up. So I like that little halfway point here where he starts it standing up and ends it laying down. And then the way they showed John Hurt in it with that, just his reflection, using the archive footage of him seeing his reflection, was perfect. I really liked it. It's a really good mini episode with no filler. It does exactly what it needs to do, with great acting all around. I really enjoy it. And then number 1, my favorite regeneration story is the War Games. I love the War Games. Even though it's 10 episodes, it never feels like it plods along. I never lose interest. Yeah, there is a lot of them getting captured, escaping, getting captured, escaping, getting captured, escaping. But it always feels fresh to me each time. I love meeting the warlord and the war chief, finding out the war chief is one of his own people. This was the episode that first revealed he had stolen the TARDIS. I love that. I think the guy who plays the warlord does a pretty good job. That other guy in it, who's like super loyal to the warlord's a little annoying, because he has this weird voice he talks with. That's a little annoying. I love the fact David Troughton has a nice cameo in this. The guest cast I really like. I think all of the guest cast do a pretty good job in this story, except for the one guy I just mentioned. And of course, episode 10 is one of the most amazing episodes of Doctor Who ever. Also, I've got to point out, I love the end of episode 9 when they're running toward the TARDIS in that slow motion. That's one of the most iconic shots of Doctor Who to me. I love that scene when you see the Doctor and Jamie and Zoe running toward the TARDIS in that slow-mo. That is a neat effect, better than a lot of stuff Doctor Who does now. I love that effect. And showing just how much control the Time Lords have over things, that they could slow down time like that. That's one of my favorite Doctor Who cliffhangers. I absolutely love it. And then just episode 10 in itself is amazing. I love the guys playing the Council Time Lords. Bernard is fantastic. I always love his appearances in Doctor Who, but this is my favorite of his, with him as kind of the lead head council guy, because his voice is so booming, it's perfect for it. Your appearance has changed before, and it will do so again. I love that booming voice he has. That is a voice you listen to when it talks. And I love Troughton there, too. They'll probably give me a speech. They like their speeches. But I love how he stands up to them, too, you know. While you have been content merely to observe the evil of the universe, I have been fighting against it. I love all of that. To the actual sentencing and to him just spinning into the background, talking about being dizzy. What a heck of a way to end an era and a story, and a regeneration story. It's because you don't know what's coming next. I love the War Games. It's just phenomenal. It never feels like it never feels too long to me. 10 episodes fits it perfectly for me. So that's my thoughts on ranking the regeneration stories. I would like to know how you would rank them, so comment down below, because I always enjoy hearing from you guys. Other things to do: click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications, so you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon. If you like what I do and would like to contribute to what I do, there is a link to that down in the description below, where all sorts of polls go up. Right now, some of my patrons are voting on which second Doctor story I will be rewatching. I think Seeds of Death is winning right now, but it's not over quite yet. And that will be a video that will come on the channel. I also have a P.O. box. If there's anything you would like to send me, Doctor Who related or otherwise, my P.O. box is down in the description as well. And as is a link to my Amazon wish list. If there is anything on my Amazon wish list you would like to send me, there's a link to that down there. I want to give a special shout out to 2 of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane and the 5th Doctor. I appreciate their continued support and the support of all of my patrons. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.